Yo, what is going on, fellow web developers? My name is Tolopot, and in today's video, we are going to be building this simple but really cool CSS responsive navbar. We're even going to have a slide out menu to go with this, or a pull down menu, in fact. So as you can see, we have this simple menu here. We have some links here. We can go to our different pages. We add pages, and then we can go to our mobile menu. By the way, I'm zoomed in at 150%. That's why it looks really big. Obviously, it won't look. It's just for the video. You know, everything looks smaller in video. Anyway, back to what we're doing. And then you can drop down and we get this menu pull down here. And this is all done with basically just HTML, CSS, and a teeny bit of JavaScript to toggle the classes on and off. And there you go. So that is what we're building today. It's super dead simple, and I'm going to try and make this beginner friendly. If there's anything you don't understand, just drop me a comment down below or hop in the Discord server. Link it again, it's down below, and ask me the question in my Discord server. Sorry if I make any mistakes along the way, but let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my current server. So I actually have a server for the demo. Stop that, and we're going to open up a new folder or Visual Studio Codes. With a new folder. Here we go. And let's make this on the side. Boop, come on. There we go. We're gonna have that on the side, probably a bit down. We'll slap this on this side and shrink that down. We'll start with mobile first. Okay, guys, so this is what we've got so far. If we refresh here, that's gonna throw an error because we no longer have the server running. That's fine. So what I want to do, I'm going to open up the terminal inside of Visual Studio Code. Then I'm just going to run actually, sorry, we don't need to do this first. We're going to create three files. The three files, we're going to create an index file. So index.html, you know, the skeleton of HTML. We're then going to create a main.css, and there we go, that's that. And then a main.javascript. Now, for those who come for the CSS and not the JavaScript thing, because they're scared of JavaScript, don't worry, this is going to be super dead simple in the JavaScript. There's nothing really bad in it at all. It's all pretty straightforward stuff. So let's start off in the index.html, and I'm just going to close this sidebar, zoom in one here. If this is a bit too big, I apologize, but we're going to start off by using the boilerplate Visual Studio Codes provides us, and I did that by pressing shift and exclamation mark, hit tab or enter, and that will give us this boilerplate code here. We can give this any title. I'm just going to say CWA or the Coding Wizards Academy. That's my Discord server's name. Oh, don't want to save that, my bad. Actually, I do want to save that. I don't want to save it as something else. And then we're going to say link, and we're going to create a link to our main.css here. This is just going to link it in so it actually works and it all is looking good. And then in our body at the bottom, we're going to do a script. A script source, and we're just going to say main.js and link our JavaScript. And now that means our CSS and our JavaScript should now be working. Now, how do we actually run a server? Well, we're going to use node npm. If you don't know what that is, that's fine. You can just double click the HTML file inside of your thing here. Double click this and it will open up in your browser, or just drag it into your browser like so. And that will also work. But I'm going to create a little server. So I'm going to say npx live, not live server, I don't know what that would do, and dot. That's just going to create a little server here, and there we go. That's now running. We can actually close this one here. Another thing we want to do is, you can see here, I've got Google Fonts open. I'm actually looking at the material icons. We can select this here, material icons, and we can actually use these for our menu icon and our close button. Now, it's actually really simple. If we head over to say GitHub, I'll link these down below. If I forget, just shout at me. And we scroll all the way down, you can see they've got some CDN or just some links here to it. And we want the one which says icons. You can see this one says symbols and this one's icons. We want the icons. I prefer them. The symbols are the newer stuff. I haven't actually looked into it yet, but we're going to be using their icons today. And there you go. That's all we have to do. Just paste that in our head and we're ready to go. So in our body, we're going to set up the script basically. Let's just go here so we can see what's going on the side. Let's just go in here. We'll just say header. I just like to wrap my navbars in a header tag. This is just some HTML5 semantic tags. We can then use a H1. You don't have to use H1. Some people like to use different H1s for their titles. I like to use H1s for my logo stuff if it's text based. but you can use whatever you want. So in here, I'm just going to type CWA, hit save, and there you go. You can see CWA here. I'm going to put this at 125%, so it's not too big there. Then we want a menu. Now this is going to be our desktop menu, so when our screen is big enough, we're going to have an anchor tag. We're just going to use a hash for now. The hash just means don't go anywhere in an anchor tag. So this obviously is going to link to a different page, but for now we're just going to say hash means stay on the same page, don't do anything, don't reload the page, and we're just going to go home. We're going to create one called home, and then we're going to create another one. This is also going to be a hashtag for now, and we're going to say about. We're going to create another hash tag, and this one, let's just say Discord, and one final one, and we'll say contact. Now this is our menu. These are different pages you can get to on our thing. We don't actually want to see this on our mobile view here, but we're going to keep it there just for now. I'm then going to create a button element, and I'm going to give this the class of hamburger. Now, what we're going to do is just go here and say span class, and we're going to say material icons, and I'm just going to paste in here menu, because this is the code to actually get this hamburger menu. There you go, and that's done by the fonts here, the material icons. So this is actually a here, this is a, how do you pull it, it's actually like CSS font file you're loading in, and by passing in the menu here and by giving it material icons, it knows to use the content from here. We can put this as close, and you can see we get the X. You can put this as user, maybe not user, person. There you go, and you get a little person there. There's a load of different icons. Have a look on there. fonts.google.com/icons to see all the icons they can offer. It's pretty awesome. I'm just going to type this back to menu, and there you go. We've got our little menu icon there. Great. Now underneath this button, we need our actual pull-out menu. So the menu we're going to pull out. Now we're literally going to copy this menu. We're going to put it here, and I'm just going to say mobile menu. Now there's something else we could do here. Also, I've just noticed these three need to be wrapped in a navbar here. So I missed out my nav here. I wanted to wrap these in a navbar inside the header, and then this is actually a mobile menu outside of our navbar here. I just like to use the right tags for it, so that's why we're using this. And there you go. And then we have a mobile menu outside of that here with the same links. Now you could probably create a component if you're using Fuel React and just load that menu component in here and do something different in a different container. But for the simplicity of just HTML and CSS, we're going to stick with just these two classes. So you see we've got some diffs with class of menus, class of hamburger. This class material icons needs to be on this span, so it actually shows the icon, and that's where we're at so far. So this is all cool. This is all the markup we need. We don't need any more HTML. It's just a real simple thing for this menu. Now let's go to our main.css. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to give this everything a margin of 0. I want to remove it all. Look, save, it's all gone. Padding is 0, you don't actually need it. Some things do, some things don't. It's not necessarily needed. We're going to say border box. That just how do you explain border box? Let's have it. Will it give us a thing? Specify the behavior of width, height. Oh yeah, that's it. So by doing box sizing just means how the width. So if you say width, does that include your padding, your border, or whatnot? In this example, it does. It includes your width, adds your border and your padding inside rather than letting it flow outside. So if you had a width of 100 and you had 25 pixels padding on either side, that would make it 150 pixels. By doing border box, that would still keep it at 100 pixels and just push the content inwards. Hard to explain. Google box sizing if you want to learn more about that. We're then going to add a font family to everything, and I'm just going to say Montserrat. I'm just going to say sans serif. There you go. So everything's just gone to a Montserrat font. I have this font installed on my machine. You can choose any font you want. You can even just put sans serif, and that will work. You know what? We will also just do sans serif. There you go. Now we all have the same font. Well, probably slightly different, but there you go. We're going to use sans serif. We're then going to give our body the background colour, and we're just going to make it really, really light grey. If I can spell background, we're missing an N. And there you go. That's just a slight change there. Now let's start our actual nav inside of our header here. We want to set the position to be relative, and we're going to set the C index to say 99. You don't have to do it so high. You can do it a lot lower if you want. I'm just going to use 99 in case we add more C indexes later on. We're going to display this as flex, justify content space between, and that's going to push everything to have space in between each one. It's going to try and give you equal space between each element. You can see we have 3 elements here all being pushed in different directions. We then want to make sure everything is centered. So we're going to line item center. That brings everything central. So if you've got a big box, everything's not sat at the top, something might be slightly bigger, it all sits in line, so they're all central. Obviously, then we're going to have a background color. We're not going to use white, we're going to use a black. I'm going to stick with a nice black and white theme, keep it quite neutral. You can choose whatever colors you want for your thing, of course. And let's just make all the color text white, and there you go. So that's looking a lot better now. Let's actually start our H1 first. Oh, you know what? Let's add some padding to this. Padding 1 rem, 1.5 rem. So that's 16 on the top and bottom, and 24 pixels on the left and right. If your base font is 16 pixels. So if the font size of this is 16 pixels, that's going to times 1 by 16. Learn more about your pixels, your rems and your ems by just googling it. There's some basically just sizing. Mess around with it, have to see what it looks like. You should learn it pretty quick. And there you go. So we've got the CWA here. Let's start off with some color. We're going to start off with color. We'll give it a white first. It's already white because we set it here, so we can actually turn this off, and now it would say white. So we don't even need a white. Let's remove it. I'll just adding things for a reason. We're going to add some letter spacing of 5 pixels. That's just going to make the letters sit further apart. We're then going to give some padding. And we'll say 0.5 rem, 1 rem. And that's just going to add some padding on the outside of this. We don't want to set our padding right. Now, the reason we want to calculate the right, so we've added letter spacing. That means the last letter A actually has some more spacing on the end, causing it to be wider. Now, what we want to do is we want to stop that. So we want to say calc. We want to put our 1 rem in here minus 5 pixels to give us equal spacing. So we're taking away our letter spacing from our padding to get the right size. Now under here we can set a border. So we want to set a border of 3 pixels solid white. And there you go. You can see we have this border here. Now if I remove this padding right, you can see it's more stretched on this right side just by a little bit because of the spacing here. So if we now take away this, save, you can see it's now a much more equal size. And let's give this a transition of 0.3 seconds because we're going to add a hover effect to this. So let's say nav h1 hover, and we're going to hover just to the color of crimson. And there you go. You get this nice little fade effect, and that's our logo. That's all we're doing. We're just basically styling up our logo here. We've added some color, a border, and some other things. We can also add a tiny border radius here. So we went border radius 0. You know what? Let's say 3 pixels. Let's see what that does. No, it's not quite good. 5 pixels, 8 pixels. So you could have that. That looks kind of cool. I'm going to stick to the square edges. I like the square edges. I'm going to leave this comment in there for you guys so you can see, change it up and have a look at your own styles. This is all about learning, so definitely try your own things with this as well. We're going to create the menu. So you know in our index, we have our menu here. We need to style this up. The first thing we want to do is just display it as none because we don't want it to appear on our... our mobile view. We only want to appear on our desktop. So we're going to use a media query. Media queries allow you to change styling depending on the size of your screen. So here we're just going to have display none. We're going to have a line item center because we're going to make it flex later on, and then we're going to say margin 0 minus 1 rem. And that's just going to be the reason I'm doing minus 1 rem is because when we come to make our pad, or when we actually put space between our elements, between our links, we want it to sit flush with the edge of the container, and we're going to minus 1 rem and then add 1 rem of margin around our actual links to space them out. So it will work out to be equal distance. That's kind of what we're doing. There's more calculations there. You don't have to do that. That's just something I prefer to do. Now let's start the actual links themselves. Again, I'm going to do this 0, 1 rem. Let's go into let's turn off display none and just quickly turn that to display flex just for demo purposes. And there you go, you can see these here. Let's make this a bit wider. Let's turn off our hamburger just for now while I show you this. So you can see here, that's that. If I turn off this margin, you can see it pushed it out slightly. It's no longer got equal spacing on the left and the right. So what we can do here is do this -1, and that will give us equal spacing. Now we can set this back to none, and we can also show our hamburger again. I just wanted to demo why I was doing that. And there you go. So we're going to say margin 1. We give this a color of white again. We'll say text decoration none. That just removes the underline. Again, we can remove this for now so you can actually see what it looks like here. We'll leave it like that for a second. And then we're going to say transition of 0.3 seconds. And there we go. So you can see that's all set there. We're going to want to do our menu a hover effect, and we're just going to set the color to be crimson. And there you go. You can see when we hover over them, we get the crimson color effect there, which is what we want. Next up, let's just make these display none again. We want them all gone. We don't want them appearing there. Let's actually get our hamburger now. So this is our button on the right here. Now, the first thing I want to do is we want to set the appearance to none. That removes any like native iOS styling, browser styling, you know, Android styling. Anything they add to the buttons, we're removing it. We're going to set the outline to be none. We're going to set the border to be none. We're then going to set the background to also be none. And there you go. Now we have no styling on our hamburger. We do, however, want to set the cursor to pointer. So when we hover over, we get this pointer. And then we want to display it as a block level element with a width of 2 rem and a height of 2 rem. And that's right here, but you can't see that just yet. So let's just say our hamburger span. Now we want to basically just give this a color. We'll set it to white, and there you go. Now you can see it, but I don't like how small that icon is, so we can up this. Because it's a Google font and we're using the material icon font, we can actually change the size of the icons using font size. So let's just go here and let's just say 10 rem. Let's make it huge. You can see the button is huge. Let's go a bit smaller. That's a bit too big. You can see how big it is there. All we want to say is make it 2 rem, and there you go. Now it's about the same size as our container. We can even up this by making these 3 rem. And there you go, you see how big that is now. Let's put it back down to 2. I think 2 is a nice size there. So there we go. So now we have our hamburger and our menu. We then want to get our mobile menu. And for starters, we just want to set this to display. Actually, you know, we're not going to set display fixed. What we'll do is we're going to set position of fixed. We're going to set the top position to be 0. Fixed position just means it's always stuck to whatever position you set. We're going to set it to the top of the page at 0 and the left of the page at 0. We're then going to make sure it goes across the whole page by saying width 100%. That gives it the width we need. And then we're going to set the height to be 100%. Also, that's just going to make sure it's as tall as the page. We're going to set the C index here to be 98 because obviously our menu is our navbar is set to 99. We still want the navbar to be above the menu we pull out, but we want the mobile menu to be above everything else on our page, and that's why we're doing that. We're then going to set the opacity to 0, so that's going to mean it's completely disappeared. You won't be able to see it right now. We're going to set the transform to translate Y minus. Actually, before we do this, I just want to set the background color to black and the color to white. And let's remove the opacity quick. And there you go. You can see the whole page is now black. Let's add it 0, and we're just going to use translate. Actually, let's do this. And we'll just go, for now, let's just say minus 500 pixels. You can see only half the pages or a bit of the pages. That's because we've moved it up 500 pixels. So we want to move this up 100%. That's going to bring it right off the screen so you can't actually see it anymore. And then opacity 0 is just to make sure it stays invisible. And we're going to fade it in when we slide down to give a nice fade effect when it comes in. So to do the fade effect, we're going to need a transition. Transition properties, I don't think I've explained this yet, is they make sure it doesn't just instantly change when you do stuff. It will slowly change over a given time. And I'm just going to give it 0.3 seconds. And that will make sure anything we change will only happen over 0.3 seconds. And then we need mobile menu.is open. And this is going to be a class we apply to our menu to actually do it. We're going to set the opacity back to 1. That will bring it back in, and then transform to 0. Now, if we add in this class to here, we can say is open. You can see it comes down. And if we just remove it, you can also see it disappears again. So that's what the is open will do. Now we want to get our mobile menu. I've just remembered our, so let's just quickly do this and let's turn off this. I just want to use some padding here. So we want to say padding top, and we want about 6 rem. And there you go, just so our links are in there, because without that, our links are actually sat, without this, our links are sat behind our header. We need to bring our stuff down so it's now visible there. And then we can set these back on it, and there you go, it's gone again. So in our mobile menu, we want to get our A tags this time. And this time we want to do something different. We want to display these as block. We want them to be full width, looking good. We don't want to set a padding on them of 1 rem all the way around, not a capital 1 rem. That's just shouting, and that's not nice. We're going to set the color as white. And just for a demonstration, we're going to say is open, just so you can see the changes here. So we're going to set color white, text align center to bring them in the middle, text decoration none, so we don't have any underlines. We want a font size of 1.25 rem to make it slightly bit bigger text, and we're going to add a transition again of 0.3 seconds. And that's going to give us a transition. We now need to obviously say mobile menu, a hover, and when we hover it, we're going to set the color to be crimson. And there you go, we have our menu but in reverse. But I want to do one more step here. So in our desktop menu, we have it so you just hover and they go red. In the mobile menu, I want to give them a background color as well of white. And that way, you've got this nice little transition. It gives you a little bit of difference on mobile because, you know, you like to see a big button, something easy to click. And that's why we're showing this here. I think it just looks a bit nicer. And there we go. So that's what we've got now. So when you click it, when you tap it on your phone, it'll highlight for a split second. It'll highlight whatever color you've got it here. And there we go. That will be done there. Now, we need to do our desktop because currently, if we just bring this open, you can see it's just showing this. We can actually hide... We can actually take off the is open here, and there we go. So we've got this, but when we get to a big screen size, it's still not changing. And that's because in our CSS, we need to actually do the media query, as I said before. Now we just want to say the min width. So the minimum width means this is the minimum width to apply these styles. So we're going to say 768 pixels, meaning, so when our screen is bigger than 768 pixels, we're going to get the mobile menu and the hamburger and display them as none. And I think because we're zoomed in, we're actually above that size. So there we go, you can see the menu has disappeared. If we go in, you can see it reappears at a smaller date and it disappears again. But now we need to show the actual menu, and all we do for this is just display it as flex. And there you go, you can see we get the small menu and then our other menu here as well. So that's great, but now how do we toggle this button? Now we could use stuff, we could actually put in an input here. We could say input checkbox, and we can make it for a label. This could be the label. So when you click it, it opens and it closes using a checkbox. However, what we're going to do is we are going to go into our JS and we're going to do a tiny bit of JavaScript. We're going to get reference. So in JavaScript, we can get references to our HTML elements. The first one is going to be our hamburger button. What we do is we say document, which is the page. That stands for the DOM, the document, the actual page you're on. We'll say query selector, and we're just going to say dot hamburger. And this is just like how you target stuff in CSS with the dot syntax. We're just going to find a class with hamburger on it, and we're going to store it in a variable called hamburger. We can then say const hamburger underscore icon. Now this is going to be the icon. Now to get this, we just want to say, instead of looking at the whole document, we can just look at the hamburger because the icon is inside the hamburger. So we just want to say hamburger dot query selector, and we can now just say span. Now this is just targeting the HTML element span inside. So it's going to find the first span inside of our hamburger class. And there we go. We do need one more reference, and that's going to be our mobile menu. And we're going to set this equal to document.querySelector mobile menu, which is this here. Okay, so now we have that done. We want to basically set an event listener. Event listener listens for some sort of event on the page. So we just want to say hamburger.add event listener, and we're going to say click here. We can then pass through a function. I'm going to pass through something called an arrow function, which is just a nice syntax of writing a function with a different scope to a normal function, but I'm not going to go over that. This is supposed to be a beginner's and I over-explain things, so I apologise. So we're just going to say, we're going to get the hamburger button, and when we click it, by adding an event listener to it, we want something inside of these blocks to happen. Now what we want is we want to get a hamburger icon dot inner text, because the inner text stands for this here, so the menu. And if you remember, if we change this to close and save, it changes to an X. So how do we do that? Go to menu, go over here and say inner text is equal to, and now we're going to use something called a ternary operator, which means it's like an inline if statement, if you know what an if statement is. And we just want to say if the hamburger icon dot inner text is equal, we'll use 3 equals to mean if it's exactly, and we're going to say if it's equal to menu, we're going to zoom out one here just while I write this. So we're going to say if it's equal to a menu, we're then going to get a question mark. Now the question mark means if it's equal to menu, change the text to be closed. And then we can do a colon here to say, otherwise make sure it's back to menu. That means if this does not equal, so if the inner text, if this is not a menu, then we're going to switch it to a close tag. If it is a menu, we're going to make it close. That means we're swapping it around. And then we're also going to say if it's not a menu, we're going to change it to close. And that's what this ternary operator does here. Now after this, we actually just want to toggle the class. And that's what this is, toggle class, and we're going to change this to is open. So what we're saying is our mobile menu.classlist.toggle, so we're going to just toggle a class of is open. Let's refresh and let's click. And there you go, you can see that toggles the class, we get the X, and we also see our menu, which is great. And now this is a really cool responsive navbar. So here you can see if we click this and we zoom all the way out, it all disappears as well, but it'll remember it was opened when you close it, which is fine. You can change that if you wanted, but I think that works perfectly fine here. And as you can see, this is all the code. I just closed the main thing here. And this is all the code you need to make that happen. Okay guys, so that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more and you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I make content like this all the time, so you can learn how to do HTML, CSS, JavaScript frameworks. I do a little bit of Python, a little bit of Angular, a little bit of other stuff on this channel as well. So don't forget to check out those videos as well if you're interested. If you need help, hop in our Discord server. The link is down below and someone will try and help you out. If not, I will try and help you out myself. I'm available. But for now, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.